Manager and internal Agile coach, and also Ajimeh advisory team member. Welcome, Erez.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Erez Morabia and we're up today to the COVID-19 impact on team session. Today we're going to talk about the correlation between the impact COVID-19 has on teams and the agile maturity of teams. So my name is Erez Morabia, I'm an engineering manager and internal agile coach. And I'm part of Avaya. Avaya is a global company. And we started our agile journey about 2 years ago. Today we have about 80 teams over 11 locations, and we're practicing agile on a day-to-day basis. Now, one of the interesting things we found out about agile is that we have good correlation between agile maturity and the outcomes of the organization. But what was interesting for me to know is that when COVID-19 came along, whether there is also correlation between the impact and the impact the teams experienced during COVID-19 and the agile maturity. So I've decided to do some in-depth research at Avaya. I picked up 8 teams from 6 different products, and I took 2 directions. One is going to the evidence-based approach. Okay, and we're using here Avaya Agile. So I have all the data I need. The other thing I've done is I took interviews with all the Scrum Masters of those teams to get some subjective view on what is going on and also to eliminate any human errors from the tooling. Now, the first thing I had to do is try and understand what the maturity of the teams is. So that was pretty easy because at Avaya we have Agile maturity heat map that we score all the teams based on about 30 agile practices. Each practice has 4 categories. So that was pretty easy. We just score them with we have a maturity scale and I place them on a graph. So in the graph we can see that I place them from the highest maturity to the lowest maturity level. Now the second thing I had to do is understand what the impact is. So I took 3 parameters. The first parameter would be sprint predictability, meaning expected versus actual from story point perspective. The second thing would be sprint by sprint velocity. Was that damaged in any way? And the third thing would be the sprint burn down, meaning whether the frequency of value delivery throughout the sprint was damaged in any way. I've taken these parameters, I categorized them as no impact, minimal impact, and high impact, did a weighted score, and this is where I place that in a graph. So on the graph, we can see the correlation between the agile maturity and the impact. So what I found out is very interesting. So there's a big correlation, there's an opposite correlation between the impact and the agile maturity of those teams. So the more mature the team is, the lower the impact is. The less mature the team is, the more impact it is. So the more mature you are, the less impact you have. And we can see that on a graph on a slide in a second. What we'll see here on the graph is the correlation between the maturity. So we can see here the most mature team has the least impact, the least mature team has the most impact. So that was very interesting to see. Now the impact that I took is each team to itself. So it's before COVID-19 and during COVID-19. And the starting point from my perspective was mid-March, where most of the teams were already into COVID-19. I've waited 1 sprint inside and then we've done that. Now I wanted to make sure it's not a one-time thing. So I've taken another snapshot after 6 weeks, and what I've realized is that some of the mid-level mature teams managed to reduce their impact. So that was very interesting, meaning the insight I got from that is that the more agile practices you adopt, the better chance you have to recover from that impact. So we can see that the least mature teams didn't manage to recover that, but the mid-level mature teams managed to recover that. So we showed that to management at Avaya, and that was very interesting. So management came to me and asked me, Erez, well, if we need to put one characteristic on those 2 mature teams that enable them to be resilient to impact, what would it be? So I looked on the heat map, and we have 30 agile practices. Well, based on those practices, I couldn't really pinpoint on one thing that really made a difference. So I went back to the interviews I did with the Scrum Masters, And the thing I realized that everyone had problems. It was about, when I showed them the data and the impact of the data, and I asked them what the reasoning is for that. So sometimes it was, the first sprint of their release, the last sprint of their release. We have already dependent issues, we have network issues, we have availability issues, so on and so forth. But the thing is that everyone had those problems. So the thing is that the mature teams self-organized around that in a more agile way, a more frequent way. And we couldn't see that on the other. Let's take a step before we proceed here. Nice. Thank you. So what I've seen here is that the teams were really self-organized around that. This was very important. Now, taking management and self-organization is everything that you can do with your teams. It would be a bit amorphic, a bit vague. I have to do something more concrete. So I went back to the global heat map and I looked for one thing that really made a difference. And the commonality between the most mature teams was the fact that the management was really supporting rather than controlling. So having a supporting management really helped the team to self-organize. So this is another insight. Invest in coaching your direct managers of the people on those teams. That is very important. Now, one thing still disturbed me. The thing that disturbed me is here, down here. So those mature teams, even after 6 weeks, they didn't manage to recover the impact. Although it was minimal impact, they still didn't manage to recover that. And this disturbed me, so I went back and did a survey and interviewed with the teams. And what the teams told me, that there are two things that made a difference, and they couldn't recover. Brainstorming and pair programming, okay? Brainstorming and pair programming. So there's no replacement to 4 people standing by a whiteboard, sketching ideas, talking simultaneously. No replacement. There's no replacement for 2 people sitting on the same computer, on the same screen, for a couple of hours, generating ideas for solving problems or for generating new ideas. And this helped me in 2 things. One, I understand that there is always built-in advantage for co-located team over distributed team. The second thing is that we had a debate whether to bring those 2 teams back to us in order to increase their performance. But once I realized that this is the gap, I decided not to bring them back. Because even if I bring them back, they need to maintain social distance, meaning they can't really recover that impact. Now, I've shown that to one of the universities in Israel, and one of the professors came to me and asked me, you know what? This is very nice. It shows good correlation between impact and maturity. But you only looked on the agile domain. What about the waterfall domain? Maybe the waterfall teams didn't experience any impact at all. So I went back to my organization. Although it seems absurd to me, I couldn't really argue with that. So I went back to the organization and found out a waterfall kind of project, and I started to interview. So the first thing I tried to do is I tried to understand, what is going on. I tried to look into the data, and there was no data. There was very low transparency, very low visibility. So the only thing I had to do is to do some interview with the project lead. And what the project lead told me is that he definitely see an impact, a significant impact. You can't see how big it is. You can't say how big it is or where it is exactly in the project, whether it's a predictability, value delivery, milestones, some risk, and so forth. So from my perspective, I think the waterfall team is way on the right side of this graph because of their maturity, and the impact is the highest because the worst place you want to be in such a condition is not having any data at all to rely on. So it's about transparency. Now I want to sum it up, everything up for you, and take a few points. One, keep adopting agile practices. The more you adopt, the more chances you have to recover on a difficult impacts like COVID-19. Invest in your direct managers of those teams. Coach them for using supporting approach rather than controlling approach. Keep in mind that co-located teams will always have advantage over distributed teams. That's a fact. And last, transparency, transparency, transparency. You can't really do anything without that. Thank you for listening. I would love to hear your opinion. I've put here my private email.
I want to hear your insights, comments, questions, and so forth. And now I want us to move to a new section, short interviews with some of the leading product owners and Scrum Masters from Avaya, revealing their biggest challenge during COVID-19 and some insights on how to recover that. So enjoy the session of the interviews. Thank you very much.